Hey guys, so we're here with Lehigh head coach Addie Micir. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So first question always, when did you realize coaching was something you want to do for the rest of your life?
My goodness. I think I always had teaching on my mind. I come from a family of educators. My grandmother was a teacher. My parents were teachers. My big sister was a teacher. So that was always something that I had considered. And then I really thought coaching was for me. In my senior exit interview at Princeton with our athletics director, he sat me down and he said, "What's next?" I said, "I think I want to play." And he goes, "Great. And if you never thought about coaching, we're going to spend the rest of your meeting having me convincing you that coaching is what you should do." So it was really cool for him to have that kind of forethought for me. And then talking to my college coaches, I was like, okay, maybe I can. Needed to play first, needed to get the playing days out of the way. And then was really fortunate to be able to hop into a spot where I could be an assistant right away.
Awesome, awesome. So you're a native of Pennsylvania,
I
correct?
am, sure
Okay.
am.
There's
PA girl.
a lot of good ball players out there. When I first started working for Slam, one of the first ones I interviewed was Kayla McBride.
Mm-hmm.
She was a walking bucket. Oh my God. But tell me about, where you're from, and if you were to use one word to describe a basketball player from Pennsylvania, what would it be and why?
Basketball player from PA. And I will say too, the Philadelphia area is
Okay.
gritty.
Good.
All players from the PA and especially the Philly area are gritty, and you can probably take it for the rest of the state too, the Pittsburgh area and everything. There is a ton of talent. But yeah, a little bit about where I grew up, from Bucks County originally. That is a PA thing too. What I'm learning, we identify ourselves by our counties. Apparently it's weird. That's all I know. But grew up going down to Philly and over into Trenton and Jersey just to play a lot of games, which was awesome. Good news was, with such good basketball in the area, we never had to travel very far for tournaments. So I grew up playing against players like Elena Deladon was in the mix there too. She played for Fencor, which was our rival club since we were 10. She will not remember me at all, but of course I remember her. But we just had such great basketball in the area that it was easy from a young age to fall in love, and fall in love with winning, and realize what it was like to lose too, because you get your butt kicked every now and then by some of the great players, but made it a ton of fun. And I knew I wanted to stay in the area to go to school. So yeah, it was just great.
If you were to use one word to describe your coaching style, what would it be and why?
Coaching style, I would say one. Do I only get one?
If I give you 5 or 10, it's gonna be hard. So give me one.
Okay,
Like one of these
one.
from
Just
like,
give me
Coach
one.
Claire, she's this. Like, if
I
you want them to know one thing.
I would say growth minded.
Okay.
I'll say it that way. Um, Always about how people can get to the next step. I think positivity is included in that. So growth minded, that's hyphenated. Gotcha.
Cool, cool. You got one off, Coach. You got one off. Um, you mentioned earlier you had your first big taste in coaching, from what I know, at the Ivy League level at Dartmouth, correct? Let's talk about the Ivy League. All right, the Ivy League is hyper competitive. I do think it should be at least a two team NCAA bid team every year. You got the Princetons, the Columbias. Harvard's always really solid. So it's competitive. It's a highly competitive conference. Tell me about your time there. What did you learn there? Why Dartmouth?
Absolutely. Well, first, I'll go back to my playing days. Why Princeton, which is my alma mater. So I had chose the Ivy League for all of those reasons as a player. The competitiveness, I competed in the classroom with everything that I did, and that set me up for the ability to go there. And then two, I saw the vision of what it could be, right? On the men's side, it had been pretty good for a long time, and the women's side was growing by the time I got to undergrad. So when I had the chance as the coach to choose the Ivy League again, it was a really easy decision. At Dartmouth, it was a growing program. So when I had played a few years earlier at Princeton, my first 2 years before Princeton took off and started winning a lot of times it was Dartmouth at the top of the league. And then they took a slight dip. So I had known the tradition there of what women's basketball could be and was not too long ago. And so I had the opportunity to go back with Belko Klanis was the coach there too. And she had loved the Ivy League as well. She had recruited me to Penn as when she was an assistant a few years prior to that too. So just a lot of connections, but I chose the league for all of that. It's something that I 100% believe in is the educational value of athletics. And I thought that was the best of both worlds for me. And it was a place where I could find my coaching voice. We all know how that takes a little bit, but the players knew that I walked in their shoes. And at that point, I could still play a little bit too, still hop on the court coming off a professional career and go from there. But it was an amazing experience. Spent 5 years at Dartmouth helping get that program back on solid ground, and then got the call home to go to Princeton for a year. And really what was neat for me was my teammates and I, my junior year, were the first Princeton team to go to the NCAA tournament. So it was cool to come back and see the Bella Alleries, the Carly Littlefields, and all of that, to see where the top of the league was in that year. So yeah, I think the Ivy League should be considered a two-bid league. Mike at Penn has done a fantastic job. Carla at Princeton, unbelievable. Meg Griffith, gosh, she was my director of ops when I was at Princeton, and look at what she's done with her alma mater at Columbia. And then I wouldn't sleep on Carrie Moore at Harvard. She was also a director of ops for me when I was at Princeton too.
Yeah, you mentioned your time at Princeton, top of the league. You mentioned some of your coworkers, an all-star cast, like the coaching tree is like great there for years to come. Like you mentioned, just Carrie got the job at Harvard. Then you mentioned Coach Griffith at Columbia, and you have, I think, Lister. Isn't she at UConn right now, or?
Yeah, no. So Sin is actually she's an assistant coach. She just got the job with Phoenix Mercury, so she's met at UC Irvine.
Oh,
so she's her twin sister. Yeah, coach. But
yeah,
Sin is
cool.
now in Mercury, so she was still on on staff with us at Princeton. Then of course there's Courtney Banghart, my college coach, my former boss, who's rocking out at North Carolina, which is just it's awesome.
Yeah. Tell me one thing you learned via observation or conversation with your head coach, and give me one that you learned through your fellow staff members. So let's start with coach.
Yeah, with my head coach, is it from my bosses or from my head coach when I was in college?
Just at Princeton.
Just at Princeton. One thing Courtney always led with is you have to be your authentic self. 100%, you have to be you. And so she was very clear with us with that as both players and as a member of her staff. So we knew exactly what Court was going to bring every single day. And that made it really, really easy for her staff to operate then. We knew what she was going to bring. We knew what was expected of us. And so we could go forward. And from the staff, my goodness, each one of them taught me something. So Carrie Moore, the way in which she recruited, hands down, she's one of the best recruiters in the country. And she's so diligent. She's really great at making relationships and maintaining those relationships. So sharing an office with her and watching her do that was just remarkable. Jess Imhoff, who is now video at Maryland, she taught me so much about the breakdown aspect of the game and how to look at things differently in the video side. She was our director of ops at Princeton, but shared in that. And then Sin, I loved with Sin, her passion for player development and the game. Watching her go through and explain things from them was really cool too. I've been really fortunate to work with some heavy hitters in this game, and some that are on the rise up too. So I love just continuing to pick and see what they do even after we've worked with them.
What makes Princeton Princeton?
Why
was it an easy sell?
Why was it
you to go play there?
Yeah, for me to go play there, it's probably different than players now, honestly. It was my dream school. I grew up 20 minutes away Princeton, and one of my family friends was a football coach there. So when my parents had in-service days for school and we had off, we hopped in the my neighbor's Explorer, and we went and we just played in Jadwin gyms. So it was probably a little bit different. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to play. I had been recruited by a couple of different schools that were maybe a little bit stretches basketball wise, but I knew to make me happy, I wanted to see the floor, and I thought I would be able to do that there. And then of course, the academic piece of it. I wanted to be challenged a ton. I think players now pick Princeton for a lot of different reasons. One, it's an incredible basketball program. It's a top 25 program. And so you combine that with the academic piece of it. And I think that's why now. So we'll see. I haven't been recruited in a while, so I'm not quite sure what the pitch is, but I know that's something, and it's why, it's my alma mater, and it's near and dear to my heart and everything that I do, because that's my foundation.
Beautiful gym, by the way. Beautiful, beautiful gym.
Mm-hmm.
I went there to see actually Bella play and Stella Johnson. Like, amazing game, but just a beautiful gym. My cousin coaches at Princeton now. He's speaks so highly of it. So
cool.
Yeah. Okay, so it's one thing to coach high level players. It's another thing to coach potential pros. You have Bella, top 5 pick in a draft. How do you keep a kid like that motivated? Because they're constantly hitting levels that other kids just aren't gonna hit. And I'm sure that she kept you guys sharp in regards to molding yourself to help mold her. So I guess just tell me about that time, and how you, for lack of better terms, adjusted to work with a player of that caliber.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I unfortunately only got to work with her for a year. I wish I had more time, right? But fortunately, I got to work with her for a year. And what was really neat about Bella is I think she challenged me mentally with my concept of a basketball offense in general, right? I'm a big fan of share it and shoot it, move the ball around. Everybody gets touches, but when you have a player of that caliber, one thing's for sure, Bella needs a touch every possession. So she challenged the way I thought as a coach in terms of the offensive piece of it. We need to find ways to get her more involved. But with Bella, gosh, she was so special in the fact that she always wanted to learn. She was never satisfied. And so we would go in and just try little things. Hey, notice this isn't working. Are you up for a tweak? And she'd be like, yes, sure, I'm all in. And when you coach somebody who's an athlete like that, she body corrects really, really well. So where somebody else, you might be harping on this footwork, she's able to take your coaching points, implement it, and then carry it through the rest of the workout, which was great. But that spring, before I left Princeton, spending a lot of time with her, and then Blake Dietrich, who in the time was in the WNBA as well, a Tiger alum, would come back, and those two would work out together. Gosh, that was a dream. Blake coming off as a point guard, throwing all these, European passes after playing overseas, but both of them were grinders. And so it was fun to say, hey, this is my vision for where I see you can get to. Do you agree? And if you do, let's go.
Much love to her. Great foundation set because her dad played at Duke, was a high level player there. So basketball is definitely in the blood, I would say.
For sure.
I'm a book guy. I love to read. I don't know if you're a book person, but tell me one book that you've read recently or just in the past that really resonated with you that you feel that other coaches need to read as well.
So I have 2. One of them's on my desk right now. Daily Wisdom. It's just for each day you read one chapter. And it's a little nugget here or there. Basketball psychology. Basketball is psychology. Put it out. I found it to start the year, and it's been one of my favorites. And then the other one, it's only a book that's about this big. It sits right next to my bedroom table, and it's called The Art of Becoming Oneself. And it's by Professor Brennan, who's one of our professors here at Lehigh. He was really, really tight with Jay Wright of Villanova and helped Jay with his coaching philosophy. And it really is a book that although it's short in terms of pages, it is dense. It is absolutely dense. I've been joking with Professor Brennan that if book sales have gone up, it's because I've been telling everybody I know in women's basketball about it. And in fact, I bought a lot of people that book too. It talks about gratitude. It talks about dealing with adversity. And really one of my favorite things when we had book club with it, with our team and with our softball team and with Professor Brennan is you can read the book as an 18-year-old. You can read the book as a 33-year-old. You can read the book as a 50-year-old, and you're going to take something different from it every time because it speaks to wherever you're at in life. And yeah, it's great. A lot of great nuggets in there. A lot of great coaching material too.
Got to check that out, Coach. Got to check that out. Learn, grow, lead. What does that mean to you?
Learn, grow, lead. It's just the way in which we live our life here at Lehigh. You want to be a curious learner. You want to always be growth minded and have the mindset, the right attitude to absorb and take things in. And then leadership is everything. I'm a big believer too that part of leadership is followership. So you learn here how to follow amazing leaders, and then you got to figure out what's best for you. And part of that is a learning and growing process too, because we're never finished as leaders.
Awesome. So you mentioned it, you was only at Princeton for a year, but then you jumped over to Lehigh, rose to the position as associate head coach there. What made that school an ideal fit for you at that point in your career?
So I talked to Sue, honestly, Sue Troyan, who had been the head coach here at the time for 24 years, because this was her 27th year. And I talked to her about, what my vision was for my career. And I had never really talked to anybody about that before, because coaching has never been about me. It's always about the players. And I did have a dream of becoming a head coach. I've never had a 5-year plan. I don't believe in 5-year plans. I believe in doing the best you can with today. And she actually made me sit down and think about it. And she and our AD, Joe Starrett, who's still our AD, talked about with me, okay, well, if you want to be a head coach, what haven't you done yet? We want to get you ready so when the time comes and your numbers called for a position, that you're going to be the best head coach you can be. So they actually developed a plan first and foremost for my development. And that's where, learn, grow, lead is on the walls when you walk around here. And I recognize that, wow, they don't just believe that for student athletes, they believe it for the staff as well. So Lehigh, I knew it was a high academic place. I had some family members that went here. So my uncle and my cousin, who are proud Mountain Hawks, are so thrilled for me to be in this position again. But all of those boxes were checked. That fits me. That's my ethos, the high academic piece of it, the high level of basketball. But the fact that they said this place was about development, and here we are 3 years later, and I have grown so much, and I now get to be in a different role here. It's pretty remarkable.
What are some of the non-negotiables that you feel have allowed your program to thrive at Lehigh?
So the non-negotiables is one, just how we treat each other. You're going to be a great teammate. That's it, walking through the door. Another non-negotiable for us is you're going to be excellent in everything that you do. You're a student here, first and foremost, so go be great at that. And you're an athlete here, first and foremost, right? It's a student hyphenated athlete. We share that. And so we ask them that no matter what they do, that they be great at it, and that they try to be, and by great, they try to be the best that they can be, not in comparison to somebody else. So if you're going to be in really hard classes, get the best grade that you can get. Not looking over to what your teammate got, not looking over to what somebody else got. So those have been some pretty big non-negotiables. That's kind of excluding the actual like little tiny tangible things, but that's what Sue has always led with here. And I think if you look at her track record, right, over 400 wins, a lot of banners hanging up there. It's been the right mix.
So you recently were promoted to the head coach position here at Lehigh. What made this school, this position, the right fit for you at this point in your career?
The right fit, the people. Life's about people and place. And this place, like I said, it fits me. I don't consider it selling it when I talk to recruits, because I believe in it. So it's not a sell. It's really what happens here when you talk about the academic fit and what you can do after, and the high level of basketball. So that piece of it was big for me. I want to be in that kind of position where as a head coach, I know I can let people know what this place is all about and we can win. But really the people. Joe, our dean of athletics, he really makes sure that you get put in positions here where you're going to grow. And you can connect and you can learn different aspects of the job. And that's what I've been doing. And then with Sue, she's the ultimate leader. And she showed me what it's like to lead and lead here. And it just fits me. It fits me. I don't know how else to say it, but and our players too. They're really incredible people. And so when that opportunity arose and they asked me, hey, would you like to do this? It was probably the quickest yes I've ever had.
A lot of people don't know how rigorous the interview process is. To be a head coach or an assistant coach, for many, it could be a high intensity situation. Tell me the difference, because obviously you've been on interviews, so you be an assistant coach and now a head coach, the levels of difference in regards to preparation. Like I know sometimes if somebody becomes a head coach, they come in with the portfolio and the mantra, the vision, the program, the future, all that type of stuff. Tell me about the difference, and what were two of the hardest questions that you had to answer? Because a lot of people don't share that secret sauce, but they're coming. Them questions are coming. They come at you fast, and if you answer it wrong, it may be over. It may be curtains.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. To be quite honest with you, the longest interview I've ever had was here at Lehigh. This was a 3-year interview. And that was what I did every single day as a member of the staff here. So when I came in, I was, like I said, a big believer in do what you do every day and do it well. And so when the transition was thinking about happening, my body of work spoke for itself, which was great. But I'm also a big believer too, and you prepare just as much for an assistant coach interview as you would for a head coaching interview. And I had been on other head coaching interviews even prior to Lehigh for this. And so in all of it, you have to know who you are. So whether or not as an assistant, you're showing off what your values are, or as a head coach, how your values fit your own vision and mission, right? I think that's the main difference between the assistant coach position and the head coach position. Is the assistant, you're showing off your skill set, right? You need to show, if you're going to be a recruiting coordinator, these are all the fancy mailers that I've made. These are the connections that I have. And as a head coach, you're not required to be the recruiting coordinator anymore. You need to supervise the recruiting coordinator, right? You need to make sure the pieces of the puzzle fit well, and you're letting good people run. And so I think that's really the main difference. It's not just about all the things that you've done on your resume, but it's how do you lead and how can you get people to jump on your vision? Because as an assistant, you got to jump on somebody else's vision and execute it that way. In terms of questions that I've been asked, a lot of them I've been asked the 5-year question a lot, and I'm not sure if that's just hard for me or if that's hard for anybody else, but like I said, I just don't believe in it. So because I don't believe in it, it always, not that it stumped me, but I just had to explain myself in a better way. But I think one of the toughest questions that I was asked was, what are some of the things that you disagree with your head coach? And how do you go about doing it? Or what are some of the things that you would change if you're a head coach? Because I think what happens there is a lot of times assistants or people who are interviewing for head coaches tend to bash of things that they didn't like. And then when you're sitting in this chair and you start to recognize the why that happens. We do it as players too. We all do it as players. We bash our head coach's decisions when we're in the locker room after, right? And then you become a coach, whether it's an assistant or a head coach, and you're like, oh, right. Coach maybe didn't make the decision that was best for me, but she did make the decision that was best for the team. So I always think in those kind of questions, you have to be mindful and you have to have perspective of, okay, I maybe didn't believe it. Maybe I would have done something differently than my head coach did. And I recognize why she did it. So talking about how in my philosophy, how maybe I might communicate in a different way, right? Maybe not better, right? Maybe different. I think that that comparison piece of it shows that it's not just a you thing, but you can give grace to others.
It's easy to talk about the high points, but let's talk about the low points. We all as coaches go through rough patches. It could be conflict, family conflict with coworkers, conflict with teammates, conflict. Okay. You know, tell me, it could be with pay. It could be with pay because sometimes some of the jobs, the entry level jobs, aren't paying that well. So tell me about one you had and how you handled that situation and it made you a better person.
Yeah, for conflicts, I mean, the easy ones is when you're talking to play, not by easy, but when you're talking to players about playing time, right? This is something that they are so invested in, 100% invested in. And if all of their hard work and they're bumping up against, I just can't break through, right? And if I'm doing everything that I can, what are you doing with, and what are you doing about it, right? And you're saying that hard work pays off, but I'm not seeing it pay off. I'm a big believer that in any conflict, any type of conflict, communication is key, because communication eliminates confusion. And then the second piece of that is clarity is kindness. So even though clarity might mean it's more direct, in the end, it's what's kind to the individual, because it takes away any of the spiraling that happens, right? We all have the best arguments, right? In the shower with ourselves in our own heads when we're thinking about how things are going to go when we start to spiral. I know that our players do that. I know when they're home or when they're talking to their families or their friends on the phone that things are spiraling. So the thing that I need to do in that moment is communicate, and be as clear as I can and as direct as I can. And it might be hard in the moment, but afterwards it's better. Same thing with a coworker, same thing with a boss, right? I haven't had any conflict right now. I'm on day 3 of my job, right? Everybody's real nice to you. Everyone laughs harder at your jokes, and all of that kind of stuff. But anytime that I did disagree with Sue, and we disagreed all the time, I would come in here and we would talk about it and be really clear. And then at the end of the day, got to be on the same page as your head coach, right? So as long as you spoke your piece, whether or not she went with my idea or not, we would come out a unified front.
You can only be one. You could be a great X's and O's guy. 9x1 player needs to get open. You know what you're doing. You're getting that person loose. But in regards to the rah-rah stuff, getting the troops ready, you're kind of like, bland. Or you can be, the rah-rah guy, the person that makes a person run through a brick wall for you, but sideline out of bounds or down by 1. It kind of like just holding the clipboard, kind of saying, well, best player has to get open. That's you. Which one are you and why are you choosing?
Gosh, I don't know if I understand where you're coming from. I don't know if I completely agree with it, because I think people flex either way. I'm definitely an X's and O's person, but at the same time, X's and O's are informational, and you got to be a little bit inspirational too. You got both in there. So for sure, at the end, and sideline out of bounds have been my thing. Sue handed me the board my first year after game 1 and said, "You're good at it. Go run with it." So I'll draw up plays and we'll be really specific. And at the end, I stop, I put the clipboard down, and I say, "Hey, in all of this, players make plays. So go be a bucket. Go be a bucket." Right? I don't care how the play goes in. And I think that year we were ranked in like the top 10 or 5 in synergy points per possession, sideline out of bounds. So it looked really good on me. But I'll tell you what, you go back to synergy, we scored off broken plays. We were not perfect in those moments, but our players left feeling really confident that, well, this play is going to work because I get to make it work. So I think it's a little bit of that. I would err towards more of the X's and O's. And by that, we don't do set plays here. We do systems. So we teach you how to play. But I can be rah-rah a little bit. I'll rely on my staff for a little bit more of that.
What can we expect to see on this team? Not wins and losses, but when somebody comes to see Lehigh play, if I show up at a practice, what will I see? What's the thing you want me to walk away feeling?
you're going to feel the sense of energy and connectedness. One thing with our offensive style that's not leaving and not changing is we got a high octane offense. We're going to go and we're going to share it and shoot it. Share it and shoot it. That's been our thing for the last few years, and it's been really done really well by us. And but it's that energy and that connectedness feel within that style of play. You got to be willing to trust each other. You got to be willing to share and not care who scores as long as we score. And in doing that, we're going to score a lot of points.
2 more quick questions. If you could give a young coach a piece of advice, what would it be and why?
My piece of advice would be find good people to learn from. It's not about the title or position. It's not about the money that you're going to be making. But if you surround yourself with great people early on in your career, 1, you're going to learn a ton. And then 2, you're going to grow a ton. And finally, the third, they're going to be the ones that help you get to where you are too in your next ones. Because if you're good at what you do, other people will find you, and that'll be your network.
Mm-hmm. Anything I missed you want to share?
Oh goodness, not really. I mean, I'm thrilled to be in this position now. Lehigh is just a dream come true for me. So yeah, I'm pumped to be here and to represent the Mountain Hawks.
Awesome. Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I'll definitely watch you guys play a bunch. I know you're going to be highly successful there. I've heard nothing but good things.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on too.
No problem. Bye.